Hi, I'm Noam Wasserman, Dean of the SciSim School of Business at Yeshiva University. I was a longtime professor at Harvard Business School, an entrepreneur, and a venture capitalist. I wrote the bestseller, The Founder's Dilemmas.
And I'm Charlie Harari. I've been working with companies for over 10 years. And that book, The Founder's Dilemmas, and the challenges faced by the 10,000 founders in it is the basis of this podcast. We are delving into the issues faced by startups to help you avoid the pitfalls that claim so many good companies.
Let's get started.
And hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Founders Dilemmas podcast. I'm Charlie Harari. Great to be with you again. Here we are exploring different aspects of the business world. We've had opportunities, if you're joining us now for the first time, to have live guests. We've been able to spend time just really delving into different aspects of the business world, of the founders world, of the world of startups, and some of the understandings and the research behind it. I am joined, of course, with the indefatigable Dean Wasserman. Dean, what do you have for us today?
Charlie, great to be back with you. And in some ways, we have the culmination of our second season. Just to return to big picture about what we've been doing together. First season, we went through the full life cycle of a venture from pre-founding through exit. And then this second season, we've been spending the time deepening a bunch of it, taking topics and going deeper into it if we thought we needed to go a little deeper, but usually driven by questions that we got from a variety of our listeners, some awesome ones that are very thought-provoking and very insightful questions. We've also taken half the season doing interviews with rock star founders of the things that we might be able to learn from them, the insights they gained, the stiff tuition bills sometimes that they paid that everyone else can benefit from their education. We now have tonight the fourth of our stars that we're going to be interviewing and getting into a bunch of the experiences along the route there. But this is in a lot of ways the culmination of season two. And season one, we had 15 episodes. This is our 15th episode for season two. Very possible that we'll hold over as an encore our subject tonight to be able to do a second episode for us. And so we'll have an extra bonus one, a 16th for the second season. But we will get into it right now with Dr. Jonathan Donath, who is a serial entrepreneur, another one of the things that we teed up this season. We took a look early on at serial entrepreneurship. We also took a look at it within nonprofits and for-profits, a bunch of the founding lessons. And Jonathan brings together a bunch of that. He has done for-profit founding. He's done nonprofit founding. He's gone through the entire life cycle of the for-profit founding. So we'll be able to learn from that and also be able to hear a bit of the contrasts and a bit of lessons, some of which were portable from one into the other and others that had to be relearned in terms of the nonprofit and what it introduced for that. So Jonathan, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Sure. It's an honor to be here. And I've listened to most of your podcasts and I've learned a lot from it. So thank you.
No, it's our pleasure. Thank you. So let's get into a little bit of the early days. And from that, people will be able to hear the evolution of Jonathan, a lot of the background and a lot of the great stuff that you brought into the founding arena. Talk to us about when you were building your foundation pre-founding, the key early decisions you made, early aspirations you had, key influences that changed the direction or those aspirations.
Sure. I'm a chiropractor by profession. And, unlike the regular medical model where you go to medical school, you do 3 years residency, and sometimes you specialize and have a fellowship. And then most doctors go work in a clinical setting, mostly either a hospital or nowadays a big medical practice. In chiropractic, I'd say I'm guessing 90% of chiropractors work for themselves at some point, but very few start right out of school and go start their own practice. And so I was always kind of a business-minded guy. I always sort of planned on going to business until I went to Camp HASC. And it was only as a counselor at Camp HASC that I kind of changed my mind. And I wanted then to decide to become a physician. And then it was kind of to figure out what kind of physician I wanted to be. And so once I decided I was in chiropractic school, it's a 4-year program. I had the advantage of every summer working for another chiropractor. And that was really key because I saw what I wanted to do and I saw what I didn't want to do. And that was kind of like these internships and really allowing myself to see, what's out there. And also chiropractors don't make a ton of money coming out of school. So if you get an associateship, it was just a really, really low salary. And I felt like I refused to believe that even if I started my own practice, that I couldn't make more on my own. And that's, so it was more, I was married young, and so it was also practical purposes of saying, okay, you know what, I think I want to start my own practice. And it was, I learned on the job, and it was quite a lesson of business, and starting a practice from scratch at 26 years old.
You see this a lot with founders, that they really were, they had a moment in their lives where they sort of did the math and said, my options really lead me to starting my own company as the better of the two options. They didn't leave from a big company. They didn't have golden handcuffs. They had options in front of them, but as they sort of calculated them, it didn't really make sense. And I wonder, when you really look at some of the founders that we have and the entrepreneurs, if that leap, that sense of, I don't have to follow, I can think through, I can calculate out the impact, and I don't have to just follow the norm. If that's really the story of many of the entrepreneurs, it's not anything incredibly major. It's just really thinking through the options and realizing that when you get it to the end, it makes more sense to try it on your own.
Yeah, one of the things, though, that Jonathan did that was very nice was experiencing the other side before he made that decision.
Right.
It's in a lot of ways the classic path that people are told to do, but often don't execute on. Of before you work for a founder, learn from them, be able to drink in their experiences, the lessons they learned. And so Jonathan being able to see both best practices and cautionary tales of the things that the other chiropractors were doing that he wanted to go the other direction from, but also what's on the do list, not just the not list, but also the do list. Right. Those are a couple of them. What were some of the key formative lessons that you learned from watching before you headed into doing it yourself, Jonathan?
So I was also, besides those, let's say 4 summers I worked for different chiropractors, I was kind of that guy that I'd be driving down the street, and if I saw a chiropractor's office, I'd be like, and just kind of pull in and just knock on the door and go in there and introduce myself. And it was, I learned from that as well. So one of the lessons I learned just talking to all these chiropractors before I started was, I said to each one of them, I said, if you could go back and do one thing differently, what would you do? And they almost every one of them said, I would be out of network with insurance. I wouldn't take insurance. And just the insurance world is just so difficult. They squeeze you so much that the doctors felt like they were basically treating people for free and having to just being dictated how their care for their patients was dictated by the insurance companies. And I felt that if I'm not going to be an idiot, these guys are all telling me this is the one thing they would do. So I thought, you know what, I'm starting from scratch. If I go 6 months and I have no patients and I can't pay my bills, then I can always get on the insurance companies. But if not, what better way to start now? I mean, I came in with also an attitude of I had some really good advice was given to me that first couple months of practice. There was this woman, another practitioner down the hall from me, and she said, as I was trying to figure out what to charge, she said, Jonathan, just because you have a poverty complex doesn't mean your patients do. And that was really, really a key thing to me, because I was deciding how much to charge. And she's like, just because you can't afford yourself, that doesn't mean other people can't. So, and that's what I did. And I started, I was right off the bat quite a bit more expensive than my colleagues. And I always felt like, why work hard? Let's work smart, and
wow. Okay, I would suggest that let's take this as a starting point. Let's hit the pause button on it, and let's fast forward to your founding daily giving. And so we just heard a little bit about the groundwork that you did before the chiropractic practice. So the for-profit part of your life. And then later on, the idea and the ramping up on the nonprofit side with daily giving. Let's get into the founding of that. And then let's back up into this and see a little bit of the contrasts between the chiropractic and the nonprofit. So why don't we head into that right now in terms of the source of the idea and the key early decisions with the nonprofit?
Sure. I guess I'll try to be quick to give you just a little, for your listeners who might not know what daily giving is, a quick synopsis. I basically, a little over 4 years ago, had an idea that popped into my head one night. I was in my local synagogue and put $1 in the charity box like we always do. And the thought crossed my mind, no matter how much charity I give, I still get a mitzvah, a good deed for this $1. So how can I guarantee myself the mitzvah of tzedakah, of charity, every single day for $1? That was the idea that crossed my head. So I ran home, I Googled it, and I was really excited about it. I really felt right away, I was really excited about this idea, and I could not find, I Googled it, I could not find anybody doing this. So I called up my website guy who does my business websites, and I said, Shovel, what do you think of the idea? He said, love it. I said, can you build me a website? He said, absolutely. I called up my other two best friends. We started meeting at their houses, and one thing led to another, and we started a 501c3 nonprofit called Daily Giving, and that was the idea. So I actually called Charlie Harari. I called Charlie. Charlie was literally one of my first calls. I called Rabbi Pesach Kron. I had this idea that if I got Rabbi Pesach Kron to talk about daily giving the way he talks about Torah anytime, I'm going to blow this thing up. So I called Rabbi Kron. Rabbi Kron liked the idea. He said, no one's doing it. I said, no one's doing it. So he said, well, let's get a rabbinical council together because no one knows who you are. And we don't want people to think that the money's going to pay your kids' college funds. I said, that's a good idea. So that's what we did. We called Rav Hershel Schechter, Shlita, the Rosh Yeshiva of YU, and a couple other Rabbanim, and they all said yes. And they were behind us right away. And we were off and running, and we went live with the website on January 1st, 2019. And the idea was to try to get Jews from all over the world just to give together. It's only $1. What can you get for $1? But when you put your money together, we can have some serious impact. And here we are. We just had our our birthday was the other day on January 1st. So we just turned 4. We've given out over $7.5 million so far. And every day we give the money to it's like a diversified portfolio of charities. So today, funny because I mentioned Camp Haskin, I actually had Charlie's bunk at Camp Haskin. The year after Charlie left, I got Charlie's bunk. So we were connected back then too. But today we gave $13,113 to Camp Haskin.
Wow.
Yesterday we gave $13,103 to Brothers for Life, an organization for Israeli soldiers who had PTSD and who are helped by other Israeli soldiers. And we have this amazing diversified portfolio of charities. And so people feel like, no matter how wealthy you are, you can't give to everyone. But we figured out a way that for $1 a day, not only are you giving to not everyone, but across a portfolio of different types of charities, we're having a meaningful impact. We gave over $60,000 a year. Last year, in 2022, we gave over $60,000 to 60 organizations. And we're just getting going. We want to get to $100,000 a day.
And so from the poverty complex, you've gone to relieving poverty, and the kudos for the early job that you guys were doing that. Just a little reflection. I first met you a little bit than a year into this evolution, March 2nd, 2020 at APAC.
That's right. And very, very, that was like the night before the world ended.
Exactly. That's why particularly memorable. And we've talked about some of the ways in which the challenges of the era that started on March 3rd echoed in the Talmud, and a lot of the lessons, how to recover and get stronger from it. Some other things that we might get into in a future episode around those types of things. But that night signed up for it. And then within a couple of weeks, appreciated how this was my way to be able to keep the dollar going each day, unexpectedly. That had been the solution to the COVID era. If you can get into some of the early forks in the road that you faced in getting it off the ground. So you fast forward a little bit to the end point. Let's back up to the early days.
So first I want to say that daily giving takes nothing. 100 cents of every dollar that everyone donates goes straight to the charities. And we felt at the beginning, we felt strongly about that we are a fund of funds. And so every nonprofit has their own overhead, and we felt if we take a small percentage, then now we're raising their own, across the board. So we thought, look, let's try to do this. We did everything very mom and pop at first, and try to save money where we could. And everyone was volunteers. To this day, I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid anything, but I do have a paid staff now. But even now, my paid staff I fundraise for their salaries and all our operation costs. Any marketing we do, any advertising is all funded separately, so that 100 cents of every dollar still goes to the charities. And I will tell you, from this podcast purposes, that really does cause issues and makes my life a whole lot more difficult. But we're sticking to it. We think it's important, and could that ever change? That's not our intention. Our intention now, 4 years in, even though we have a big operation, we're giving just about $5 million a year out now. That's what we want to stay. So it started, and we're still doing a lot of things the same way. Like we had a lot of nonprofits came to us and said, we don't understand how you're so successful, because we tried doing this dollar a day concept. Like every nonprofit looks and say, okay, I have 5,000 donors. If I just got my 5,000 donors to give $30 a month, that's it. My whole budget's raised. And they all said they tried it, and they said it was an epic fail. And so I had a lot of founders of these other organizations tell me that they really thought they were being honest with me. Like, I got to be honest, we thought you were going to fail and it was not going to go well. And I think a couple of things that I figured out, not me, but I think in retrospect, why I think daily giving was successful. I think the fact that we give to a different charity every day is something very unique that people like, right? That we really are giving their dollar, literally giving their dollar every day to a different charity. And then we feel another part of our special sauce is that we have an email that goes out every day. And it goes out to now, over 13,000 people, and they find out where they gave that day and a little bit about that organization. Just a couple months ago, a poverty organization called Mesamche Lev, they reached out to me and they said, one random day, we had 8 sizable donations coming through our website. And we could not for the life of us figure out what caused 8 random sizable donations to come through our website on one day. It doesn't happen. And they realized it was the day that Daily Giving gave them. And we sent our email out and people were like, wow, this is amazing. And they went up, and signed up. And I've heard that from other organizations too. So it's not just the money we're giving them, but we're also raising the awareness of these other organizations. And for some small organizations, that means a lot to them. Or maybe from, maybe we have some mental health organizations, and maybe it's not just the money we're raising for them, but we're also raising the awareness. Another cool thing happened, we give to Ezer Mitzion. So with the money we give them, it goes to swab IDF soldiers to see if they're a match for stem cell, for different procedures. And so in December, Ezer Mitzion did 46 transplants just in December alone, saved 46 lives, and 3 came from the daily giving pool.
Wow.
So and I didn't we didn't advertise that yet. So that's news to your listeners, is hot off the press. I just found out 3 years ago, but we literally, as a daily giver for $1 a day, we literally saved 3 lives in December. And that's just one of our partners. We have other life-saving organizations. So that's pretty neat.
Then take me to a point. I mean, one of the things that we care a lot about is the founders, the mentality, the startup mentality, the entrepreneur mentality, and I think it's a pretty key piece to the entrepreneur is this concept of resilience, never giving up. I read somewhere that the difference between a successful and unsuccessful startup in many cases is just when are you going to say quit. And lots of companies that don't belong here are still here because they won't quit, and they'll pivot and they'll get the funding in the last minute and they'll keep on going. Take us through a little bit of your thinking. I remember when you called me early on, I thought the idea was nuts. I thought it had legs and you were so passionate about it, but it wasn't that I heard it and I'm like, this is a home run idea. I think you made it a home run idea. Like now we look back and go, of course, daily giving, what a good idea. It downplays just how hard an idea is when no one else has the idea, right? Like the ingenuity is hard when in the beginning. At the end, everyone's like, of course, why wouldn't you use an app to find a car? Like, yeah, I would have thought of that. No, you wouldn't have, because if you did, you would have. Like, no, it was a terrible idea until it was an amazing idea, right? Like, that's how it works. So when an entrepreneur has an idea and the world never heard of it before, it's hard to make it real. So take us through, if you can, those beginning moments where you have this idea, you get this Einfall, and you're ready, and you see it clearly, but the world maybe doesn't see it yet. And how do you hold on? And what kind of advice do you have for other people that may have ideas that they think they could be their ideas, but the world's saying not sure?
First of all, you were very polite if you didn't think it was a good idea back then, because you made me feel good despite that.
I thought you were the good idea, meaning like in my mind, the idea was you. And with your passion and your desire, you could have walked through walls. But
Sure, that's nice.
I was
that means a lot
coming later.
Yeah. Look, I will tell you that, let's see if I could bring all the parts together, but I think that I was sure it was a home run. I just felt it in my bones that this was a home run. And the months leading up to Daily Giving going live, everyone I told said, that's an amazing idea. What a no-brainer. I'm going to sign up. And so when we started it, and the first day I sent out an email to 500 people, and around 80 people signed up the first 2 days, I was encouraged, but also discouraged. But that's when it got hard, right? Mm-hmm. That's when I saw that first month, I can't tell you the disappointment I felt when I saw how hard it was to get people to just take their credit card out of their wallet to sign up for $1 a day.
Yep.
And I tried literally for months. If no one signed up by 9, 10 o'clock at night, I would go through my phone and I would call someone. And I would tell them about it. And then they're like, okay, that's a great idea. I'm like, but I need you to sign up now. Just try it for a month. If you don't like it, stop. But just trust me on this one. And I did that for months, like literally. I think there was like in 4 years, there might be like 3 days that someone didn't sign up for daily giving.
So can I pause you for a second? Just because, let me just pause. For those that are listening, and you think that the idea carries the day, that's the point. Like, that's the point, which is the idea didn't carry the day. The idea was the catalyst, but the concept of you picking up the phone every night at 9 o'clock and soliciting another participant for, you said, months on end, that's the stuff that nobody talks about. And no one's going to remember it. They're going to say, of course, daily giving. He stumbled upon an easy one. They're going to forget. And for those that are listening, you should not forget that even the greatest idea that's a home run in your bones still requires soliciting friends, family, and everyone else you know, because after a couple of weeks, it's not friends and family anymore, right? It's just random people on your phone that you once knew. That, hey, what's up? How you doing? Yeah, I haven't spoken to you in 8 months. Yeah, listen, do me a favor, sign up for my program that you never heard of before. What? Like, right? That's the stuff that makes things happen.
Yeah.
Go on, apologize.
I also want to tell you that it's like a quarterback. You get too much credit when things go well, and you get too much. Look, thank God daily giving's gone very well. And I get interviewed on podcasts, and I feel like I get too much credit. There's literally a team behind me from day one, co-founders, volunteers, and then now paid staff that like it's a team.
Sure.
It does not just happen for me. And then the other unsung here is my wife.
That's for sure.
Godly amount of hours she lets me put into this. But yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I was it was a rude awakening to see, because to this day, it troubles me why it's such a no-brainer. And everyone who does it loves it. Like literally the feedback is like 100% positive. Not 99% positive, like, or fine, 99% positive. We're Jewish, right? 99% positive.
Right.
And yeah, but people love the idea, and if they don't act on it at that moment and go to the website and sign up, they forget. They mean to. When I met the dean at that APAC conference on March 2nd, it was the previous APAC conference the year before. We had just started, and I went there, and I know I had 1,000 conversations because I came with 1,000 daily giving business cards, and I didn't hand them out. I had 1,000 conversations, and at the end of the conversation, I'd give them a card. And at least 100 of those people said, I love this. I'm going to do it. And out of those, at least 100 that were truly, they meant it. They meant they were going to sign up. How many do you think signed up out of those 100?
Dean Wasserman.
Plus 4 friends, maybe.
Uri Westrich, Dean Wasserman, and friends and family.
Dean Wasserman signed up the year after. I'm going to tell you why he signed up. Well, he probably would have been one of the people from the first year. Just guess, out of those 100 that were absolutely certainly going to sign up, guess how many signed up?
Under 20.
Dean?
5.
Whoa. There's a former Harvard professor. 6.
Oh, I was being generous.
6 signed up. Okay. Now that what I learned then.
Wait, if he's under, how does the rules work? If you're under, do I win? How does that work? If I'm over, I lose. Is that how it works?
That's the right rules. So what I learned from that is that when I found someone who seemed interested, I had to take it another step further. And I said, and I literally would retell this APAC story. I said, 100 people, and 6 people signed up. So if you don't mind me being so forward, I recommend you sign up right now. Here's the QR code. You can just go on your phone right now. It'll take 2 seconds. If I sensed any hesitation, I backed off, obviously. Okay. But about 50% of the people were like, okay. So I went to Camp Hass that summer in July, and I spoke to, I got 30 people to sign up in 2 hours just by going around talking to people and saying that story about APAC, and they signed up on the spot. So that was my new strategy. I pivoted, and I realized that that's the way. So
just an observation about the psyche of the founder and 2 ways in which you were just getting into that. Both of them are manufacturing momentum. So when it would be lagging for you on a day that no one had signed up, that's when you would pick up the phone and get something on the scoreboard. Be able to get yourself through the dark days. And so that was the first of the manufacturing momentum. And the other one is the really difficult challenge of inducing trial. And you essentially didn't just bring the horse to the water. You handed the bucket, you handed the straw to the horse, watching to see. And that's where how you were able to continue the building of the momentum day by day by being able to get a little bit further than just bringing the horse to the water.
That's right.
This has been an incredible first part. We're going to have a second part to this incredible interview, so stick with us. You can always email us questions at foundersdilemmaspodcast@gmail.com. Stick with us. We're going to have a part 2 of this incredible interview coming up right now.